Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2020-21 season. My name is Dan and today I'm coming at you with a Game Week 20 buy, sell, keep, avoid video. As I like to do a few days before every Game Week deadline, try and help you out with some transfers and stuff. It is the flagship series of this channel, and if you are enjoying it so far, please do give a big old thumbs up and of course subscribe if you're new around here. Oh my god guys. We got to get to 50,000 subscribers. We got to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of January. We got to do it, and I can only do it with your help. So if you are watching this, you're not subscribed. I know about half of you won't be subscribed. Come on, join the FPL Mate gang. Let's go. So before we start the video, a quick word from our sponsors today, and our sponsors are, of course, OneFootball. Now, for those of you who don't know what OneFootball is, it's a great app / website for all things football. Now, I personally like to use the OneFootball mobile app to check up on lineups for Premier League games, check the scores maybe if I'm not watching the game and I want to catch up on what's happened, and maybe look at some stats as well on there because they've got everything basically. But also, as it's the January transfer window, I know Arsenal have got their eyes on a couple of players, so let's see if Arsenal make any signings. The OneFootball also provides football news, so great at the January transfer window. And whatever team you support, you got some transfer rumours and news there. So give it a go, completely free. The link is at the top of my description. Go check it out. So very quickly on the rules, and then I do want to say something. So buys are players that you probably don't have but should consider bringing in. Sells are players that you probably have but should consider removing. Keeps are players that you probably have and should keep. And avoids are players that you probably don't have but should avoid. Now, I did want to speak very briefly, guys, about Antonio last week. So obviously last week I said, okay, I'm going to put Antonio in the avoid category. And obviously that turned out completely wrong. He was definitely not an avoid. He's definitely a player that you would want in your team. He played really well. And I kind of just want to say sorry, guys, that I suggested that Antonio might be an avoid, when actually, you know, he clearly was not a player to avoid. He's clearly a player that you would have wanted in your team. And perhaps me speaking about Antonio put you off him. Now, I've got to be honest, I stand by what I said at the time. I did think he was risky, and I did want to warn people about the risk. I even said in the video, you know, this player, Antonio, he's not a typical avoid. He has the real potential to get some really, really nice points, but that depends on him starting both games. And in my opinion at the time, I thought, okay, he's just coming back from injury. He's not looking 100% quite yet. I'm not sure he's actually going to be playing both games, but turns out he did play both games and he scored in both games. So I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm sorry about that, and I'm sorry if I influenced your decision in any way. Yeah, I just want to apologise. But, you know, try and listen to my reason. I did say he could pay off, but was risky. If you, you know, if you didn't want to take the risk, then maybe you agreed with me that it was a bit too risky. You kind of got to make your own decisions at the end of the day, and you can't always trust me. But remember, in that same game week, I said to bring in John Stones. So he got a few more points than Antonio. So I can't win them all. I can't win them all. I'm not going to get it right every single time, but you know, just try and make up your own mind, and you know, listen to my reasoning, but try and make up your own mind, because you know, some of you guys might know more than me, genuinely. Like I'm only human, remember. But anyway, I've spoken enough about that. I'm sure. Hopefully, that's kind of happy, and you know, you can forgive me for that one. But let's move on to this week. The kind of players I think you should be buying, selling, keeping, avoiding in this game week. So let's start you off with Ilkay Gundogan. Pretty confident about this one. I feel kind of strongly about this pick. I actually told my friend a couple of weeks ago. He was in the market for a new midfielder. I think he wanted to take out, I can't remember exactly who it was. It was like James Ward-Prowse or something. He said I want to take him out of my team. Who should I replace him with? I said, oh, you probably need to get on City. You've not got enough City players. And he said, okay, right, I'm going to go for Foden then. And I said, wait, hang on. I know Foden's got a couple of good scores recently. Hear me out. Go for Gundogan. He's actually looking pretty nice at the moment. And to be honest, when I look back at that, I was recommending Gundogan to friends. But maybe I should have been recommending him to you, because obviously he's done really well since then. And I'm sure some of you guys could have done with some of the points. But he is looking really good. He has been looking really good for a while. I was a little bit cautious about recommending him publicly on this channel, just because I always typically think of Gundogan as a deep-lying midfielder. But it turns out, you know, when you look at the data from the last several game weeks now, it turns out he's not. If you look at his average positioning in terms of how high up the pitch does he play, he's actually comparable positions to someone like Kevin De Bruyne, which is something that we really like. In fact, statistically, and I said about this in the video yesterday, he's actually looking statistically pretty similar to KDB in terms of, you know, the amount of shots that they're taking, the positions up the pitch that they're occupying. And we've got KDB out And if you're kind of looking for a like-to-like swap, fair enough, you might be thinking Sterling in terms of just make sure you've got that City attacker in your team. But Gundogan is kind of interesting. He's kind of really interesting as well. And the fact that he plays high up the pitch, in these outside the box, he gets in better attacking positions than someone like KDB. He's taking more dangerous shots inside of the box, far more than expected. Sort of stats in the last 16 shots, 13 in the box, so that's a lot for, you know, what you would consider to be a midfielder. 6 on target, 4 big chances, 2.61 expected goals, 4 goals, 8 key passes, 1 big chance created, 1.1 expected assists, 0 assists. So actually he kind of drew an assist as well if you look at it like that. So he is getting goals, he is in the right areas. I think he's going to be on penalties permanently. He's in the form of his life. I really, really do like this one a lot, and I think this is going to be the player that I bring into my fantasy team this week as a De Bruyne replacement. I know that's a big price difference between the two players, but I kind of do think he fills the hole that I kind of was looking for in De Bruyne, and I did want to keep De Bruyne long term. I feel like Gundogan does fill that void, if you like. So our next buy is John Stones. We're keeping it with City. We're keeping it with City, guys. Honestly, this is the team that I want to be targeting right now. I mean, I've already done it. Last game week, I put John Stones in my team. You know, some of you may have done the same. Those of you who haven't done it yet, got to be done. It's got to be done. So double up on City defense. Maybe it's not John Stones you need to buy in to double up on City defense. Maybe you already have Stones and you want to buy one more. But what I'm telling you guys is to double up on the City defense. Now, I'm guessing that most of you will have either Diaz or Cancelo in your team right now. And for that reason, I'm saying Stones is maybe the second guy you want to grab for your defence. As I keep saying, for weeks and weeks and weeks now, City have been the best defence in the league. They've been the best defence in the league for so long, and they are by so far. It's hard to do data based on game weeks because, you know, all teams have played different amounts of games. But per game, over the last several weeks, sorry, City have 0.52 expected goals conceded per game, which is the best in the league by a mile. 0.33 actual goals conceded per game. So they concede 1 goal every 3 games. No one comes close to that. No one comes anywhere near close to that. They also concede, you know, only 2 shots on target per game, which is just an insane stat. Just, it's great for defenders. Maybe not so great for, you know, your goalkeepers like Edison. Because their City aren't receiving a lot of shots on target, that means Edison's not really making any saves, which means he's not getting any bonus points, and he's quite expensive. So, defenders, yes. Edison, maybe not. But they're pretty much up there with every defensive stat is what I'm trying to tell you. I can't stress how good City have been defensively. And then if you look at their fixtures, it looks even better. West Brom next, then Sheffield United, then Burnley. Even after that, they've got Liverpool, who haven't scored a single goal in however many game weeks now. The only concern with Stones is perhaps rotation. Now, Laporte is back. Is he going to rotate with Stones? Maybe. Laporte is a left-sided centre-back. Stones is actually a right-sided centre-back. And, you know, Diaz has been the left-sided guy. So, I think maybe there's potential for all 3 of those guys to rotate a little bit. Nobody's really going to be safe in City. We kind of know this by now. But by going with 2 City defenders, you give yourself the best chance of getting some of those clean sheet points. Just make sure, you know, you've got those options on your bench to cover if one of your City defenders or City attackers or whatever City players you have in your team, make sure you've got something on your bench just in case they don't start. And, you know, the advantage of Stones is that he's so cheap. If he does get rotated, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you've got a huge amount of budget, you know, wasting on the bench every 3 or 4 game weeks. It's fine. It's fine. It's only 5 million or however much it is by the time this video goes out, because I imagine a lot of people are jumping on Stones. The only thing I would say is don't expect 2 goals every game week. Not going to happen. Probably won't score another goal this season. Well, he might, but, you know, he's not going to be scoring every game week. Do not think that for 1 second. So on to some sales. We're going to start you off with Zuma, Kurt Zuma. Kind of Zuma's fallen out of favour. Rudiger seems to be first choice now in that Chelsea defence alongside Silva. Zuma has only played 1 game, in fact, in Chelsea's past 4, and even if he was playing, Chelsea are becoming a little bit worrying in defence. The other thing is fixtures. Chelsea, they actually have some okay defensive fixtures. So they've got Wolves next, then Burnley, Spurs, Sheffield United, and Newcastle. But if Zuma only plays in 2 of those games, you know, or 1 of those games maybe, is it worth keeping him? I don't know. 5.8 million is kind of pretty expensive for a defender, and I wouldn't want to waste that all of that money, 5.8 million, on a real rotation risk. I mean, so much of a rotation risk that he's more likely to be benched than to start. You know, in a defense that is showing significant signs of weakness and going downhill a little bit. Maybe Zuma does come back into the team because this defense is going downhill, maybe to sharpen it up a little bit. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? But what I would say is the fact that Zuma has fallen out of favour is giving us a great opportunity to take out someone like Zuma and go in on another Man City defender. That's an easy transfer for me, as far as I'm concerned. Straight swap, Zuma out, bring in, whether it's Cancelo, whether it's Diaz, whether it's Stones. You bring in one of them, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then we don't have to worry about it. We've got all these beautiful Man City defensive fixtures that we can just sit back and relax. My next sell is Neto. You guys have followed me, who have followed me for a while. You're going to know that I've never really rated Neto as an FPL asset. I just kind of don't trust the Wolves attack without Jimenez. He had a nice little streak, did Neto, about a month ago. A lot of people brought him in, and he's kind of still stuck in your teams right now. Over the past 5 game weeks, though, 2 assists, 3 blanks. That's all that Neto has got, unfortunately. His stats, too, really not particularly impressive in the past 5. So 8 shots from Neto, 5 in the box, so only 1 shot in the box per game. Only 2 shots on target in 5. That's really not good. 0.53 expected goals, so not even really looking amazingly likely to even score. 13 key passes, which is not bad to be fair, but no big chances created. He's had an expected assists of 0.73 over this period, but has managed 2 assists. So he's overperformed his assists there. By quite a bit there, which is kind of a little bit worrying because that's the kind of thing that you probably would not expect to be sustained, something like expected assists, particularly with you know, a sort of middling player, if you like. Definitely a player with loads of potential, really excited for what he's got in the future. I don't know, I'm not sure I'd want him in my FPL team. What we want for midfielders primarily is goal threat, and Neto kind of doesn't have that right now. You know, when I'm looking at players around the price of Neto, I'm looking at Gundogan for a cheaper price, right? Saka, Foden, Rafinha, you know, maybe Harvey Barnes if you can afford the upgrade. Those are the guys who I would much rather have in my team than Neto. Again, it's a very easy swap to do from Neto to Gundogan. Really easy swap to do. Wolves play Chelsea next, then they play Palace, okay, but then they play Arsenal, Leicester and Southampton, so now could actually be kind of a good time to sell him. Guys, I think if you've got Neto, that's a pretty easy sell for me. Okay, on to keeps. I'm going to start you off with Bamford. 2 blanks in a row, and even the game before that, he didn't score a single goal in that 5-0 win against West Brom. He did get a couple of assists in that game, however. I think people, you know, with strikers, people often, if they see your striker's not scoring in a couple of games, you lose your patience and you try and sell them, right? Please be patient with this one. Please be patient with Bamford. I know a lot of people are selling him, but please, Bamford is about to play Newcastle. You don't sell a proven striker ahead of a fixture against Newcastle. I'm telling you guys, Newcastle really are that bad right now. I'm sorry, Newcastle fans, to say that. You guys probably know it as well as I do. The thing is, Newcastle are conceding more high-quality chances than any other team in the league right now. Their expected goals conceded in the past few game weeks is second worst, only to West Brom. So only West Brom have kind of been worse defensively than Newcastle. So they really are what you would typically consider to be the whipping boys, as in teams we want to target. Often, in fact, when you've got a striker against a whipping boy, you actually might want to captain them. Now, I'm not suggesting that you captain Bamford, but I'm certainly saying you've got to keep him. In addition to this, we have Leeds versus Southampton. That needs to be rescheduled very soon because that was obviously cancelled in the double game week. It needs to be rescheduled. Looking at the fixture schedules, it looks very likely that that game, Leeds versus Southampton, could be played in Game Week 23. If that is played in Game Week 23, that means Bamford, along with all Leeds players, they're all going to have a double game week against Southampton and Crystal Palace at home. That's pretty nice. So in general, I would not be looking to sell Leeds or Southampton players right now, at least until we get some new, you know, say some news comes out that the fixture can't be played in Game Week 23. That seems so near in the future that you may as well keep Bamford for that fixture because it's nice. It's a nice double game week. Maybe you might even want to captain him if no other double game weeks come up. But anyway, let's look at some Bamford stats in his past 5 games because, you know, we've got to look at some stats. So 16 shots, 13 of those in the box, which is quite nice. 5 on target, 4 big chances that has come to an end, 2.43 expected goals. He's only had 1 goal, so he's underperforming that stat. We do expect him to underperform his XG. That's kind of the player Bamford is, but perhaps we wouldn't expect him to underperform it by quite that much. So goals are going to come his way. His assist potential is not as much, but, you know, we're looking for goals really with strikers, because that's where they get more points, that's where they get the bonus points, and that's what makes them worthwhile. So, yeah, primarily, I do think that the Bamford goal threat against Newcastle, big chance of some goals there. So my next keep is Chilwell. So whilst I said Zuma is a sell, I do think Chilwell is a keep. And even though I said Chelsea have been bad defensively, and they're kind of ranking well inside the bottom half of teams for defensive stats over the past 5 game weeks, I do think that Chilwell might be worth keeping. I certainly wouldn't be buying him if I didn't already have him, but if you do have him, it might be worth holding on to him. I kind of do think that. And here's why. So firstly, and this is the important one, Chilwell is nailed. He's going to be playing every single game week when fit, unlike Zuma. You know, unlike Reece James, who can be rotated a little bit. Unlike, you know, pretty much anyone. Clearly, Chilwell is the undisputed preference at left back. He's going to be playing every single game. You won't have to worry about rotation, which is a... we don't have to worry about that. Really nice. Secondly, a good rule of thumb in FPL is to pick defenders based on the fixtures rather than the form. Now, Chelsea's fixtures, as mentioned earlier, Wolves, Burnley, Spurs, Sheffield United, Newcastle. Their previous games, you know, in which they performed pretty poorly defensively, were against Arsenal, Villa, City and Leicester. So, some really tough games in there. And then they kept their clean sheet against Fulham. With respect, some of Chelsea's best performances defensively have been against the weaker teams, which you kind of expect, to be fair. So there's a chance that they could still keep some clean sheets despite their recent form in these upcoming much nicer fixtures. The only thing telling me that Chilwell could be a waste of money, and maybe maybe you would want to sell him, it's just that his attacking numbers look pretty bad. But who knows, that could change, as we know what he's like as a player. He does like to get up the pitch. In the easier fixtures, he may come alive a little bit more. Like I said, if I didn't have him already, there's no way I'd be transferring in Chilwell into my team today. No way. But if you do have him already, I think there's definitely other areas you'd want to prioritize. So for that reason, unless you desperately need the cash, he's a keeper. Keep Chilwell. Time for some avoids the scary ones. Cresswell, we're going to start you off with. I'm going to try and keep this relatively brief because I don't want people to misinterpret this one. I do indeed think Cresswell is going to get points in the coming game weeks. I do think he is going to get points. West Ham's defense look pretty good statistically right now. You should be interested in buying West Ham defenders. And look at the fixtures. Palace, Liverpool, Villa, Fulham, Sheffield. And after that, yes, it gets a bit tougher, but in the immediate term, we're looking at the Palace, Fulham, Sheffield games. Really nice for a defender, right? So you probably want to play a West Ham defender in those 3 games, right? And then for the Liverpool and the Villa game, you probably want to bench your West Ham defender, I'm guessing. The problem is, you can't bench 5.4 million Cresswell. He's too expensive. You know, when we have a cheap alternative, you can really easily bench a cheaper alternative at West Ham. You can casually bench them whenever you want, rotate them. You guys who have been around here a while are probably going to know exactly who I'm going to suggest, but I just feel like Cresswell is too expensive to bench. And, you know, if you do have him, you might not even be able to afford rotating defenders. You might not even be able to afford a first bench rotating option because 5.4 million is quite expensive for a defender, particularly one at West Ham. But anyway, the FPL mate OGs are going to know exactly who I'm going to suggest. And we kind of identified Sofal much earlier in this season, didn't we? Vladimir Sofal in game week 6, we brought him in, something like that. Many of us have owned him pretty much ever since, never left our teams kind of thing. He's only 4.7 million, so he's significantly cheaper than Cresswell. You can easily rotate a player at that price. And what the Cresswell gang won't tell you is that Sofal actually has a much better expected assist potential than Cresswell. Sofal genuinely creates more and better quality chances than Cresswell. So far, he's actually quite a creative player. You know, you don't expect that. The thing is, Antonio's back in the team. I think that's only going to benefit Sofal. So yes, my suggestion for those of you who are not yet on a West Ham defence, go for a West Ham defender. But instead of Cresswell, join the Sofal gang. Come on, join us. But of course, if you already got Cresswell, absolutely keep him. But for those of you who are looking, Sofal's the one. My final avoid and my final pick of the video is James Justin. And it's like, obviously, this is another one I'm worried about. I think right now, in general, I'm quite worried about suggesting any avoids at the moment. So please only kind of listen to me if you agree with what I'm about to say. If you disagree, feel free to say, Dan, mate, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm not listening to you. Like, fair enough. I understand that now more than ever, right? So, James Justin is not a player I would be buying right now. Not because I don't think he's any good. I think he's fantastic. I haven't owned him at all this season, and I'm so jealous of you guys who have had Justin in your team. I wish I put him in my team earlier on in the season, but I didn't because I was worried about Ricardo Pereira coming back into the Leicester team and taking Justin's place off him. Now, Pereira, he came back in Leicester's match against Chelsea off the bench, so we know Pereira's back now. For those of you who don't know, Pereira is an insanely good right back. He's probably Leicester's second best player after Vardy. Maybe some of you won't agree with that, but that's what I believe. So if Pereira is fit, in my mind, he plays. Now, of course, Justin has had a fantastic season so far, and he's versatile. Justin can play at left back as well as right back. He can also play as a centre back and a back three. I don't actually think Leicester are going to play with a back three in the future, so might not want to think about that too much. But basically, we need to ask ourselves, does Pereira come in and play at right back? Or maybe, does Pereira come back in and maybe play at right wing? If Pereira does play at right back, does that mean Justin just plays at left back? If so, what about Castan? Do players like Albrighton, Fuchs, Thomas, do they chip away at the minutes that fullbacks have? I wish I had the answers. I don't have the answers. What I can tell you is that Justin's position in the starting 11 is the most threatened it has been so far this season. That's a fact. So rather than take a risk on him, why not wait a week? So Leicester play Everton this game week. Now that's not an amazing fixture, right? We want to target good fixtures when we're looking at defenders. You can afford to wait a week and see how Leicester line up, maybe try and get some clues, and then we can make a slightly more informed decision from there. If you desperately need a defender this game week, Justin probably is not the one to go for anyway. Like I said earlier, John Stones, same price. He's a better option in terms of the fixtures that he has. He's playing in a better defence. You know, when I spoke about Sofal, he's kind of nailed on. He's got some really nice fixtures coming up too. Probably better than Leicester's in terms of clean sheet likeliness. So, yes, I really do think we can afford to wait one game week on James Justin, figure out the situation. Will he still play? And if so, where? I'm fairly optimistic that James Justin is going to still have a fair amount of minutes. And I'm thinking, you know, worst case scenario, he still plays 2 out of 3 games, 2 out of 4 games, something like that. But, you know, it'd be nice to see, and I don't think, again, you know, ready for a game against Everton, now is the right time to buy. I don't know. Just wait 1 week, guys. So there we have it. That is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. If you did enjoy what you saw today, please do give a big thumbs up. If you are new around here, and I know about 50% of you are new, you've not subscribed yet, please do subscribe. I really need your help to get to 50,000 subscribers. I would appreciate that so much. Guys, if you're interested in OneFootball, check out the link in the description. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I'm super active, you want to follow me on Instagram, join my mini league or support me on Patreon, please do check out the links in the description. Aside from that, guys, I've got a reaction stream tomorrow after the Aston Villa versus Newcastle game. I'm going to do a reaction stream about 10 PM GMT. So do join me there if you're around. We'll do a little reaction stream. And then after that, we've got some more videos coming up. Plenty more videos because we've got a few days still until the deadline. So look forward to that, guys. Once again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you on the next one. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.